Welcome to Best Kept Secrets Travel, episode 30. My name's Morgan.
And my name's Will, and I'm lost.
In a city.
On a trek.
In South America.
This is the Lost City Trek in South America. So if you want to hear about a city which was only recently discovered, and still
Arguably
to this day they're still
trek.
trying to find and discover more parts of the city, then listen to this podcast, because this is a great one.
Roll the intro.
Best friends, and that's for life. Who stay traveling? I'm talking worldwide. 65 countries between the two. Every moment is so unbelievable. Sharing the best kept secrets about the trips and mistakes they made that they can't forget. So tell me if you're ready for a time to remember as they gear up for the next adventure. Yeah. Woo! Best kept secrets travel.
Only accessible by 44-kilometre long trek through inhospitable jungle terrain, visiting Ciudad Perdida gives travellers the chance to live their lives out like Indiana Jones.
It's pretty cool.
Deep within the northern jungles of Colombia's Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, there lies a single trail which takes only the adventurous, the brave, and the curious towards a sacred site which is thought to be some 650 years older than Machu Picchu. The lost city was discovered by grave robbers, and then, eventually, a hurricane uncovered a lot more of the city. In 2003, a group of 8 tourists and their guide were kidnapped on the way to the lost city. The site was shut down, and it was not until 2005 that tours and archaeological work began once again.
This bit's important.
Tourists were released 3 months later after being kidnapped. Today, the Colombian military maintains a strong and very visible presence throughout the area, with tour guides often sharing camps with the soldiers at night time.
Oh, what a great intro. So this is a trek that I did when I went to Colombia, and it is a very adventurous, very exciting, and very cool trek that I think is
More excitement about this
best
trek,
kept
Morgan.
secret in South America.
Why did you like the trek so much?
It was just, it was very unknown. So I first found out about it from someone at uni who actually was a Colombian, which is a best kept secret that we talk about a lot, is
What,
speak to a
find a-
local. Find it, yeah.
Our best kept secret is go to university and find a Colombian.
That is clearly
You didn't help yourself there.
the best kept secret. But it's speak to a local. Locals are the best source of knowledge for finding activities. And the Lost City Trek is an amazing trek, and as you pointed out, it's 650 years older than Machu Picchu, which is one of the things that we were a bit confused about when we went to Machu Picchu, because we were almost like, we have pubs in the UK older than this. Not quite, but
What?
potentially.
450 years old. The house I grew up in is the same age as Machu Picchu.
Exactly.
The old farmhouse.
Did
The pub down the road and the forge are almost 2 times the age of Machu Picchu.
Do tourists hike 5 days to get there?
No, I walk 5 minutes down the road and drink a few pints.
Maybe we're missing a trip here. There's lots of money in that.
So, Morgan, who did you actually go with on this trek?
So this was my first time in South America, and I was actually solo traveling. But
Were you actually?
yeah, I was with a group, and I went with a company called G Adventures, who do lots of tours and, guess what, adventures around the world. They're not the most budget tour company, but they're reasonably priced, and they're very well organised. What have I said now?
No, you didn't say anything. It was my mind.
What's your mind
How
done?
long-
What
how-
has your mind done, Will? Come on.
How long did the trek take and what was it like?
You know you don't have. You can change the questions to
Yeah,
how you want to word
I
them.
think these are good foundation questions before I get into the more intense ones.
Exciting. So you can do 4-day treks and you can do 5-day treks, depending on the speed and what you want to see and do. What was the other question?
What was it like?
Tough.
Was it wet?
It was extremely wet.
So what gear did you take to prepare? Or do you think you or someone else in the group were underprepared and could have packed differently?
Okay, so it's a really interesting tour to pack for because it's 98 to 100% humidity. So regardless whether it's raining or it's sunny, you are always wet. It's unavoidable. So the way you pack for this trip, and you do carry your bags, in theory you can get a mule to carry some of your stuff, but you do carry your bags. But the way you pack for this trip is you have hiking clothes, which are the clothes, pretty much one set of clothes that you wear every single day to hike in. And then you have night clothes. So once you've had a shower or cleaned or stopped hiking, you then put on night clothes, which could be slightly warmer because it does get slightly chilly at night. And you only have those two sets of clothes. You have changes of underwear and socks because they are quite important to change. But apart from that, you wear just two sets of clothes for the whole week.
Really?
Yeah, there's no point in changing. We were also told from the beginning, do not wear a waterproof or an anorak because then you'll be wet on the outside and the inside.
Okay.
Because it is impossible not to
Because of humidity.
Yeah.
So you say 100% humidity.
I said 98.
No, you said 98 to 100%,
Yeah.
which means at some point there was 100% humidity.
Right.
Otherwise, you can't have that variable. Does that not mean you were just in the ocean? Because the ocean is 100% humidity.
It doesn't.
That is 100%.
It does, yeah, but it doesn't have to be as thickly or as dense. That was the word I was trying to think. As the water that you have in a pool of water.
Doesn't sound like
the
100%
ocean.
humidity. I don't like lying to our listeners and viewers, Morgan. So I would like you to retract your 100% statement.
99.99.
Accepted. Whilst you're out there, did you come across, did you learn about, or did you actually not care about learning about the indigenous tribes out there, or were you really actually intrigued by it?
This was my first real experience going out, well, into the jungle and
Just going out.
Loads of things. Yeah,
I've never
I'm a
gone out
hermit,
before.
No, going out and doing a tour that involved indigenous tribes rather than them all being. I've been to obviously religious sites and indigenous sites, but not with a guide, not with tribes that you're actually going to be walking through their lands.
Yeah.
And this, I was very excited about it. It was really intriguing to me to actually see how they still live like this in this day and age and why they don't change.
Did they have Wi-Fi?
No.
Did they have phones?
No.
What did they have?
Sandals. They had sandals.
Were they hiking with you at all, or did you just come across them on your track?
So we had both. We had two guides.
Were they indigenous?
We had the G Adventures guide, who was a Spanish to English translator.
Mr. Liability.
And then we had the indigenous tribe / guide, who spoke their local dialect and then a little bit of Spanish.
Oh, so you had to go through people.
So there were multiple translations.
Was there Chinese whispers and then all of a sudden one of your guys got killed?
So it was quite funny in that there were a couple of people who spoke Spanish on our tour, and they actually were commenting about how the indigenous guy, Gabbo, he spoke much more gently and much... unlike my words right now, he spoke a lot better than our Spanish guide, who sort of translated it into more simple, potentially more aggressive at times English. So they were saying that what he was saying in Spanish sounded a lot nicer than what the guide was telling us in English, which was quite funny. But I didn't speak any or understand any Spanish. Apart from my favourite phrase, eres lento, which is like, she is slow, which I kept telling the indigenous guide before he then ran off.
So along the trek, did you constantly see this supposedly lost city because it's so big? Or was there actually a final destination which was the lost city to go and see it? And along that way, were there things to do, or was it more you were taking in the hiking, talking, enjoying the walk, learning about plants and nature?
No, you definitely could not see...
Because I didn't hear from you for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, you definitely could not see the lost city until even when you're close, you couldn't get there.
Really?
See it. It is crazy how they found it, and that they actually discovered a lot more of it. They found it, but they didn't discover loads of it because they didn't know it was there.
They've been sending drones over with radars now trying to scan through that. It's the canopy which really blocks a lot of it from the trees.
Exactly. And that is exactly the case in this case, in that there was a load more that was uncovered because of a hurricane.
Yeah.
Which isn't
I did mention that at the beginning.
Surprising. But yeah, you did. But that, and you can still see when you're there the scars of the hurricane in the landscape,
really?
Which is quite cool.
And how much of the lost city could you actually see? I'm not saying percentage of the lost city, but did you actually really get, how close did you get? Could you touch it? Or were you still at a distance?
Yeah, no, you could touch it. We walked on it. There, if you look up the lost city on Google, you will see one photo, which are these little circles, and they go along, and it's a pretty view, but it doesn't seem like there's much to it. But when you're actually there, there is a lot more that you can go and walk around, you can go and explore, and we only explored about 4 kilometers worth of the site, and there is 16 kilometers worth that you could technically see, which was really interesting.
So the actual lost city is believed to be roughly 1,100 years old. Did they talk about what theories there are of why it was there, what sort of civilization it was? Was it an advanced one? Was it quite basic? Were the buildings of what you could see from them large, beautiful? Could you see any carvings, or was it very sort of block formations, more like the sort of Mayan temple look?
Yeah, so it was... Well, the civilizations were there with the tribes. They still are.
Yeah, I know,
there.
but the physical lost city, it was stone, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was stone. It wasn't like blocky and square. It was more circular and round.
Really?
Lots of it. But the buildings looked reasonably big. But there was obviously what you could see now is more just foundations. And it's so hard to get to and in the middle of nowhere that the only way they can get water, food and supplies there, or how they actually do it, is they use a helicopter that flies there, and that's how they drop it off.
Wait, for the indigenous?
For tourists.
tour groups?
For the tourists.
Really?
Yeah.
They have to chopper it in?
Yeah.
That's quite cool.
And so there was, when we were going along, we saw deadly snakes, deadly scorpions. Our guide was like, yep, okay, we're going to wait here and just let it pass, or if it wasn't moving, they would try and move it along. But we got to a point where they said, if you get bitten here or injured, or more specifically bitten, because then there's kind of a timer on how quickly you need to get help. Obviously they do have, because they know the snakes and scorpions that are around there, they do have some, I've forgotten the word for it, remedies for it there. But to actually get you to a hospital, there is literally a point of no return. Where it's quite
helicopter's your best bet.
Yeah, when they talk about it, they said that the point before that, they would potentially put you on the back of a mule, because that would be quicker than hiking. But there's a point where you can't get back quick enough, so it would be helicopter.
That was the same as when I was in Fish River Canyon. There's no road access, there's none of that. The only way possible to We didn't phone signal. The only way, if something that bad happened, was our guide he's had this big red button basically.
Yeah.
And if you mispress that, then you get a £20,000 fine.
Wow.
But that sends a signal actually to the Scottish RAF,
Perfect.
who then find out your exact location based off your signal.
With the Welsh RAF not good enough?
I don't know. It's some reason Scottish RAF, and then they then try and contact the best authority to try and get to it as quick as possible. Because if you got bitten by, there are loads of black mamba snakes in the Fish River Canyon. If you get bitten by one of those, to be honest, you might as well just start praying.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only way.
But yeah, so we did cross paths with quite a few of these animals, and it was very interesting to see in the wild because I've not come across snakes, snakes that are this venomous or scorpions.
Did you see snakes then?
Yeah.
What was the biggest snake you saw?
See, they didn't tend to be that big.
Because we tried to find anacondas but couldn't find one, didn't we?
Yeah, in the Amazon jungle. So they weren't actually that big, the snakes. And I can't remember which snakes they are. But that doesn't mean that they're obviously not deadly, clearly.
Yeah.
But it was cool, and like as soon as you saw it, you're like, I'm now quite worried. Like once you've seen your first one, because normally they say, oh yeah, there's dangerous things here, but you're not too worried about it because you never really see it. As soon as you see your first one, then your first two, you're like, okay, this is real. I've got to be careful here. But it was quite exciting, and especially because the trek was quite difficult, as in, it felt like you were walking in a swamp at times.
Really?
People in our group decided that I was really bad to walk behind because normally you just try and follow the person in front of you's footsteps. But I'm quite nonchalant in the way I walk, and I can jump around a bit because I'm having a bit of fun. And they're like, "You're a terrible person to be behind. I'm trying to follow you."
That's a bit like when we were trying to cycle down the Death Road.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which you can actually hear about in our previous episode.
Yeah, you said about it then, but it is a bit strange. And this was a trek where, unlike other treks that I've done, majority of people fell over at some point because it was really slippy and the terrain was quite hard to walk on. And especially when it was pouring down with rain.
So I've got two very important questions.
How about one at a time? Or
they are going to be one at a time.
Perfect.
Question 1. What is your personal best kept secret for the Lost City trek?
Doing it. Imodium.
Was it that bad? What did you eat?
It was very basic foods.
Porridgey?
We didn't have porridge, but it was like kind of similar to what we had in Machu Picchu, as that sort of thing. Potatoes, rice. There was coca tea that's very common there. Yeah, it was just basic food, not too much meat. But it's one of those trips where people do get ill.
Yeah.
Which is common on multi-day hikes, and
that's a worry about ever eating any meat on those things.
Well, I think it was actually more the water. I think a lot of the time.
That's why you need your chlorine tablets.
Yeah, exactly, because people aren't used to that, and it is the food. But the most interesting thing about when people got ill, as I said, people did get ill, was that our indigenous guide would just go, okay, or not in English, but okay, 2 minutes, go off into the middle of the jungle, bring back roots and different bits of water and different bits of different plants and fruits, and he'd just get it like a pestle and mortar thing out, he'd mix it all up, and then he's like, this will be good for your stomach, it'll settle your stomach. So it was almost...
They're just violently ill.
It was almost that was the weird thing. Because like roots still had bits of mud on it, didn't look clean and good. But it was amazing. It worked.
Did it?
It genuinely worked.
But that's what we found in the Amazon is they're so connected with nature and believe that you shouldn't use modern medicines, that you can find all of your solutions to your problems in nature itself. That's such a interesting way of living, but it's just generational information has to keep being passed down. When we were on the Amazon trek, he cut a piece of bark off and he said, "Oh, I've run out of this with my family and my close friends." And it was a part of bark where he said you make a tea out of it, and that acts a bit like Imodium.
Yeah. And it works, and these things genuinely works, and it's amazing how in our life, how disconnected we are from the earth compared to some of these tribes and some of these people. And there's all these different medicines and things that our world and environment can actually give us that we don't actually take advantage of.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is because we've evolved and have better things, but not always.
I think it's quite hard to beat nature with a lot of things out there. Are there any other questions you want me to ask?
There's quite a few.
Which one?
I didn't talk about one though. Did talk about the indigenous tribes.
I asked you about that.
Well, I've got more to say.
Why didn't you say it then?
Because you asked another question. But so I'm going to go back and talk about the indigenous tribes, and we actually, when we were at the Lost City, met the leader of one of the tribes, and we got to learn a little bit more here. And this was specifically from the leader and not our guide. And that, firstly, they have 2 wives, and they still have 2 wives to this day.
The leaders?
No, just
all the men.
All the men, if possible. And your first wife is someone who's much older than you. So if you're 18, 19, think 45, 50.
Really?
And they're not meant to be for sex. They're not meant to be for that sort of things. They're meant to be for wisdom.
So instead of a wife, it's more of a mentor.
Yeah, but it's a wife to them. And then your second wife is a wife for love and family.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's different. That's very different to what I thought you were about to say. I thought you were like, no, 2 wives.
No.
Like some cultures. That's very different.
Which is quite interesting. And the other thing that we asked... we asked the head tribe leader...
Yeah.
What is your advice on how to live a happy life? And he said it's 3 things.
Yeah.
Have an early bath in the morning, first thing when you wake up.
Here's a bath.
Yep.
In what?
I have no idea. But it's have an early bath, walk around and go for walks, and positivity were his 3 main things for a happy life.
Go for walks?
Yeah.
What, just in nature?
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think positivity is one of the key things. I actually asked an Uber driver that the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, I got in the car and I just said, I know this is a weird question. It was about 1:30 in the morning. I just said, what do you think, what's your biggest tip for happiness? And he said positivity. He said, no matter what life throws at you and how bad you feel, if you keep that positive outlook in the worst times, it's more likely to lead you to happiness.
And I completely agree with that. And I actually watched a motivational thing by Steve Harvey where he spoke about it.
Good old Steve Harvey.
Where he had a guy call him up 5:30 in the morning every single day and say, "Hi Steve, how are you? It's going to be a great day today. It's going to be a great day."
He paid someone to do that?
No, someone did it. So it's going to be a great day. And every time Steve Harvey would pick up and go, "What? Hi. Yeah, it's going to be a great day. Yeah, I'm sure." And this happened every day, 5:30 in the morning. And then by the 38th day, I think he said, the guy picked up, and then Steve was like, why do you always do this? Why are you calling me? And he said, I'm actually really disappointed in your outlook of life and what you're doing, because you wake up and you're like, I'm going through a bad time. I'm not in the mood. I'm just like, you can tell that you're grumpy.
Yeah.
And I'm really disappointed in you. And there was more to it than this, but this really cut Steve Harvey deep. So the next morning he's ready and waiting, and he realised that he actually starts getting up at 5:30 in the morning, and then he starts going, right, it's going to be a positive day, and he waits for the guy to pick up and go, hi Steve, it's going to be a great day, it's going to be, and then Steve goes, yeah, I know it's going to be a great day, I'm so excited. And just by doing this and starting the day positively, he then had such a better outlook in life, and his days were so much better after that, and it's something that he's kind of started to live by ever since then. But I've done it with my life sometimes, is remembering to wake up and go, today is going to be a good day. It genuinely does.
I normally just walk in the kitchen in the morning just singing. Even if I've had a rubbish night's sleep or something, I have a routine of waking up. First thing I do is get a coffee, and during that journey to get my coffee, just try and ooze out even if I'm so tired, just try and get out my energy.
Yeah.
Because then that starts to roll down.
And also, ice baths and cold baths are always a great...
But where does this indigenous man get his morning baths from?
I don't know. He must dig it. Well, it could be the river, because during the hike there are multiple...
No, they're mugging you guys off, and they've actually just got a massive penthouse set up.
No, they've got a bath range that they want to sell to you. But you do multiple... Well, so now you only do one river crossing, because there used to be multiple river crossings and many people died.
But his positivity made them less cross.
Exactly, through flash floods. But now they've made bridges, and you actually do river crossings, which were the coolest river crossings I've done.
They're
because they're like chest height at some points, and it's really fast flowing river, which was really fun. But I just stood in the middle and helped people across with the indigenous guide.
And
then
walked
straight after the river crossing, it's then 1,200 steps to get to the lost city.
1,200 steps.
So they probably bathe in the river, crossing it, and then walk up the steps. That's their walk, and they just do it positively. Maybe that's how they do it.
Maybe that is how they do it. Would you recommend the Lost City trek?
I kind of want to throw that... You could probably guess my answer, but... So yes, I would 100% recommend doing the Lost City trek, and I think it is one of the best and most underrated, unknown hikes in South America. But I kind of want to know, would you do it? Does it excite you enough to go through all this
if I had the
daily
time,
rainfall, sweat, tears?
If I had the time, I would. But if I was going to South America for a month, I think it's a long period of time for something which doesn't... Salcantay Trail, which we've spoken about multiple times, that's deep down really, really... I knew I wanted to do that. Could you finish on part of the Inca Trail? So that to me was just a journey I knew I wanted to embark on.
Yeah.
There are parts of the Lost City trek which I'm like, oh, that would just be so much fun. I think it's so dependent on how long I have out there.
Yeah. And we all often say it's about the journey, but it is also about the history, which I'm not necessarily going to bring on here. I thought the journey for the Lost City trek was better than the journey for the Salcantay trek.
Really?
I preferred it.
Really?
Yeah.
So you'd basically say Lost City over Machu Picchu? Because we both said the journey was better than Machu Picchu.
Yes, I agree. But I would still want to see Machu Picchu because of the history, which I just pointed out that I wasn't including.
The most disappointed piece of history.
So, if you want to trek and do 5-day treks to older history, come to some pubs in the UK.
Yeah, we got loads of pubs in the UK. Maybe we'll do an episode on British pubs. The best British pubs and why.
That would be quite exciting.
The five most historic British pubs.
That sounds like...
I'd have to sneak in Gandalf's pub.
And I'd really want to go to that really remote pub in Scotland.
Which one? Oh, the tiny
really
one in the island.
Yeah.
The one owned by the community now.
Yeah, that one.
See, the one in London is owned by Ian McKellen, and it's got his Gandalf staff behind it.
That's
behind
amazing.
the bar, and loads of his little trinkets.
That is amazing.
I think this is a great time to thank Morgan for
The trees.
for the trees.
Thank me for the trees. I am the one who brought the trees.
We'll thank Morgan for the trees, apparently, but thank him also for giving us an insight into the Lost City trek. And more importantly than ever, you need to like, subscribe, watch us, share us on every podcast channel, because the most important thing is to share the secret. You have to share the secret with your family, your friends, your enemies, your pets, your colleagues, your everything. Anyone in your contact list, on your email,
Everyone.
and on your phone book needs to know about this podcast. So when you message them, hashtag share the secret and send them a link to the podcast, because we know that we can help them save money whilst traveling, give them guides, insights into the best things to do on these adventures and how to stay safe.
And as I said before, we want to educate people on travel, and if you know someone who's going to South America or even Colombia, make sure to send them this podcast, because clearly this is a very important episode for them.
It is indeed.
And I think on that note,
Roll the outro.
Yeah, let's make it happen. I hope that you can handle going on adventures, best kept secret travels. Yeah, all over the globe, having fun, you know the deal. Amazing secret locations, hang out with Morgan and Will. Educate and entertain, haggle in the market, sharing their experiences. Time to get it started. Let's go.